everyone. After studying about the fundamental absorption and exciton absorption, let us move on to the third type of optoelectronic absorption process, which is free carrier absorption. So here from the term we can understand that in the process free carriers are involved. So in semiconductors we know that electrons as well as holes are acting as free carriers which are contributing for electrical conductivity. So how photons are involved and what all properties we can study here, let us see. Let us consider the energy level diagram, and energy in case of semiconductors is given as E is equals to h cross square k square by 2m star, according to which we get parabolic nature of electronic bands. That is, a valence band located at lower energy is an inverted parabola, whereas the conduction band is a parabola which is at higher energy. And along x-axis it is the wave vector which derives the momentum, which is h cross into k. So here in semiconductors we know that there are some holes in the valence band and there are some electrons in the conduction band. But at absolute zero we won't have any electrons present in the conduction band. All the electrons will be present or freezed within the valence band itself, and that's why they don't contribute for conductivity. But as the temperature goes on increasing, or let us say when some light is incident or with respect to some fields, the excitation of electron take place. That is, we have studied about fundamental absorption, where the electron absorbs the energy from the photon present in the valence band and get excited to conduction band, but only when the photon energy is greater than or equal to energy gap. So what actually is the difference between free carrier absorption and fundamental absorption? Here also transition is going to take place. That is, the free carriers are going to absorb radiation, that is the energy from the photon, and they are not going to excite into the other band. That is, electron present in the valence band, they won't get excited into the conduction band. So it is not fundamental absorption. But here when a photon is incident, then that photon energy will be absorbed by the hole present in the valence band or the electron present in the conduction band, which is created due to fundamental absorption itself. Or we can say that after excitation of electron, a hole will be created or some unoccupied states will be there. So the photon which will be incident, that energy will be absorbed by the electron or the hole, and it makes transition to another state which may be unoccupied state in the same band, that is in the same subband we can say. That is, if you consider for a hole present in the valence band which is created after fundamental absorption, or it may be due to the doping of acceptor impurities. So with respect to that, the hole will absorb the energy from the photon and that will be transited to other unoccupied states or to other subband, but it will remain within the same electronic band itself. That is, the hole present in valence band will be in valence band itself. So if you consider conduction band electron, then again the energy will be absorbed by that electron from the photon and it will transit to, or it will be excited to other subbands. But the electron will remain within the conduction band itself. So this type of transition where the charge carriers are going to excite within the same electronic band due to the photon incident over it. Such type of transition is called as intraband transition, and absorption is intraband absorption. So till now, whatever knowledge we have, we can just say that fundamental absorption is interband absorption, whereas free carrier absorption is intraband absorption process. So this is how the free carrier absorption take place. But what actually is the condition for free carrier absorption? So when you just consider or compare free carrier absorption with fundamental absorption, both the way we are having the transition of the carriers. But when the free carrier absorption will take place and when fundamental absorption takes place is a question. So the free carrier absorption will take place even when the photon energy is less than the energy gap. For fundamental absorption, we say that only when the photon energy is greater than or equal to the energy gap, then only that interband transition can take place. But let us say the energy of photon is less than the energy gap. Then in such case, free carrier absorption is observed. And this absorption dominates the spectrum below fundamental absorption edge. So while studying fundamental absorption, we just saw that fundamental absorption edge is nothing but the energy where the absorption just starts, and below that whatever absorption will be there, it will be free carrier absorption itself, and after that dominating absorption process is fundamental absorption. But one thing we need to remember is, if the photon energy is greater than the energy gap, then both these type of absorption process, that is fundamental absorption process as well as free carrier absorption process, occur simultaneously. So because of fundamental absorption process, free carriers will be created, and those free carriers can just absorb the energy from the photon and transit within the band itself. So above, that is when h nu is greater than Eg, both the process will take place, but when h nu is less than the energy gap, we have free carrier absorption process. So this is the condition for free carrier absorption, and this process may be treated as treating the optical properties of metals itself. So for generalizing some results, we can just take the results from the free electron model of metals. So here let us consider pure n-type semiconductor. Means we are considering only electrons as the charge carriers. And in metals also we know that electrons are just free to move and they are in maximum number. So in pure n-type semiconductor we are not considering holes, but it is mainly made up of or majority number of electrons. So here, according to the free electron model or free electron theory of metals, the relative dielectric constant, that is nothing but relative epsilon r, will be equal to epsilon r dash plus I into epsilon r double dash, because we know that relative dielectric constant, that is nothing but your relative permittivity, is a complex term, and the terms are, the first term epsilon r dash will be equal to epsilon Lr, where L is relating to the lattice, minus sigma naught into tau divided by epsilon naught into 1 plus omega square tau square, which is relating to the free carriers, plus I into epsilon r double dash is nothing but sigma naught divided by epsilon naught omega into 1 plus omega square tau square. So all are having their usual meaning. So sigma naught is nothing but static conductivity, which is equals to Ne square tau by m star. Epsilon naught is absolute permittivity, omega is nothing but the frequency, tau is the lifetime, and this is equal to n naught plus ik whole square, where n naught is the reflective index and k is the extinction coefficient. So here when you just separate the real and imaginary part, we get the real part epsilon r as the lattice term minus the term due to free carriers, which will be equal to n naught square minus k square. So this is the real part, and the remaining part is the imaginary part, which is going to be equal to 2 n naught into k. So here I have taken n naught just to differentiate between the carrier concentration, which we generally write as n, and n naught is the refractive index and k is extinction coefficient. So let us call it as equation number 1 and equation number 2. So based on these two equations, easily we can get some conclusions out of it. So first case is what happens at low frequency region. So at low frequency region, we know that, let us say, the conductivity is small. So here we are going to consider two cases, at low frequency for small conductivity region and higher conductivity region. So small conductivity means the carriers are less in number, so lower concentration, and at low concentration the lattice contribution, that is the term epsilon L R, dominates the dielectric polarization in equation number 1. So when you observe the real part of that equation, which is epsilon R dash, there at low frequency and low conductivity means smaller conductivity means there are less number of free electrons, means at lower concentration. In that case, the lattice contribution, that is due to the lattice vibration, that term is going to dominate when you consider the dielectric polarization. That's why we can say that epsilon Lr is greater than sigma naught tau by epsilon naught 1 plus omega square tau square, which is the term with respect to the free carrier. And that's why we say that the substance acts as a normal dielectric, because here the lattice term is dominant and the conductivity, that is due to a large number of free carriers, it is lesser. So when carriers are only less, we say that the substance is acting, or semiconductor is acting like a normal dielectric. And still there will be slight amount of absorption associated with epsilon R double dash, that is from equation number 2, because we are considering the case of small conductivity, but it doesn't mean that there are no free carriers. There will be certain amount of free carriers and those are going to absorb certain energy and transition will take place. But main thing is with respect to lattice contribution. So this is case 1 where we have considered low frequency and low conductivity. So here absorption of radiation will be by free carriers as there are little in number. Then coming to the second part, that is case 2, where we have low frequency and high conductivity. So in high conductivity means that the concentration of electrons are more. So in this case, the lattice term is recessive and the conductivity term with respect to the free carriers, that is the second term, of equation number 1 will be greater when compared to the first term. And that's why when you substitute that, we get epsilon r dash as a negative value because it is equal to epsilon lr minus of sigma naught tau by epsilon naught into 1 plus omega square tau square. So as the second term is greater, it is with negative sign. So the whole term is going to be equal to a negative term. And this is the case where the substance exhibit total reflection. And reflection means it is a property of a metal. So we say that the substance is acting similar to that of a metal because here the conductivity will be due to the higher concentration of the electrons, and we know that in metals the conduction is only due to electron itself. So reflection is observed, but one thing we need to remember is that even though it is acting as a metal, but the conductivity or the dielectric constant is going to vary. That is, they will be smaller when compared to that of a metal. So the conductivity of metal will be very high, but when you consider a semiconductor, for low frequency and higher conductivity region, it acts as a metal, but it is not completely metal. So this is the second case. Coming to the third case, where we consider high frequency region means lower wavelength region and smaller conductivity. So here the condition is omega into tau is greater than or very much greater than 1. Because we have considered high frequency means omega is greater. So omega into tau is going to be very much greater than 1 because based on omega, tau is also going to change. So here the material is going to act like a normal dielectric because your N naught from the equation will be approximately equal to epsilon naught Lr whole raised to 1 by 2. That is square root of the lattice contribution term, and that is the relation for a normal dielectric. So we say that in high frequency and small conductivity region, the semiconductor acts like a normal dielectric. Then the corresponding absorption coefficient alpha will be equal to sigma naught by epsilon naught C N naught tau square into omega square. So this is the value of absorption coefficient, where we can observe that alpha is inversely proportional to omega square. That is, we can write it as omega raised to minus 2. And omega is inversely proportional to wavelength because omega is frequency and wavelength is a reciprocal of it. So we say that alpha is proportional to or varies as square of the wavelength, and the result from these equations should be calculated or verified experimentally also. And when it is verified, we observe the good agreement with respect to the experiment and the theoretical part. So alpha as a function of lambda square or even mu square, we observe a linear nature. So whatever results we have obtained by using the free electron theory of metals into the semiconductors under free carrier absorption, the optical properties can be easily studied and they are also verified experimentally. So the results are in good agreement, and this is for today's class, which explains almost all details about free carrier absorption process in case of semiconductors. In the next class, we will be studying about absorption due to the impurities present in the semiconductor. This is for today's class. Thank you.